Hey there, members of the Graveyard, and welcome back to our 8th Monster Hunter Wilds Beginner Weapon Guide series, where we will be going over the Switch Axe. Now, Monster Hunter is a week away. Can't believe it. I must have it now. But lo and behold, we must wait. So this is the part where I tell you about some boring logistical information, but instead we're going to skip past that. It's all down in the description. Just know that this was the beta, not the final version of the game. If there are big changes to the weapon, we will go over it at a later date in a later video. But with that being said, let's just hop straight into it. Now, I do feel it is always important when learning new weapons in this game. Take some time. I know it's boring. I know we just want to get in there. We just want to hunt, but take some time to learn your weapon, read about it, understand everything that it can do, because some of these weapons have a lot going on, and some of it is not even explained in the weapon guide. So every now and again, take some time to just kind of refreshen up, because you could be missing something really big and important, or a thing that kind of like is the missing puzzle piece for how the weapon flows together so easily. And I found that happened a lot when I was trying to learn this weapon. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to get this out of the way, because this weapon has a lot going on. So we're going to go to our play guide. We're going to go to our weapon controls. We're going to find the Switch Axe, and we're going to go to this tab right here, and we need to discuss everything here, because it will just make explaining the weapon that much easier. So we have a sword mode and an axe mode. Pretty easy to understand. We swap between them. They affect each other in certain ways. We have the switch gauge in the top left, In the top left, there will be a yellow bar, and it will be going up and down when we do things. This is very important to note. When we are in axe, it will restore, and when we are in sword, we will be using it. While we are in axe mode, there are certain ways to access power axe mode. Another part of our little UI symbol for all of our resources will be in the top left. There are a lot of resources and a lot of things going on with this weapon. So we have our amp gauge. It'll be a red symbol next to our UI in the top left. That'll be filling up when we hit with our sword. We then have an amp state. Once we fill that red meter, we get this amp state for a certain period of time, and then it goes away and we have to fill it up later. Then we have our files. So when we fill our amp state, our sword, and as you can see, there's a lot of files. The elemental type that I think we have, the type that we have for our weapon is power, I believe. They all do different things. You can read them at your own time and all that stuff, but just know that we have to understand all of these things before I can very condensedly explain the information. So I know it's a lot to take in. Take your time to go over it in your own time, or just replay back this section. But we have to understand all of that stuff before we can kind of get into the weapon. Now, the axe mode. Draw it with Y, and this is the default way the weapon comes out, unless we hit right trigger, which gives us sword. But we'll be covering the axe mode first. Now, we need to cover our non-morphing attacks. Yes, we have attacks that will literally morph the weapon as a part of the attack. Cool, huh? But we have a standard stationary Y. This is a standard combo that we will do when we have the appropriate openings to do it. If we hold forward in Y, we will kind of do this little forward slash, which serves as the first hit of our YY combo. Note that when we were standing completely still, we kind of do this overhead slam. Next, we have our fade slash, which we can do after any attack, any singular attack that we do in axe mode. We can just hit backwards in Y, and we do a fade slash. And this is very good for defense. It's a very good way to both deal damage and kind of get out of there and reassess yourself at the same time. Get really comfortable with this. It's very good. This weapon, I usually go over defensive options first before we cover weapons, but this weapon is kind of like the best defense is offense weapon. The only defensive thing we have is a roll. That's like pure defense. The other options that we'll go over a little bit later, they are just offensive defensive options. Now, checking my notes, we need to go over, remember that power axe mode that we saw in our notes, and we need to figure out how to get that. So when we hit B, standing completely still, we go into a wild swing. Now, after these 2 swipes, 1, 2, we can hit Y, and we will do a heavy slam, which you can see, top left, orange equals power axe mode. So that is how we manually go into it without any special shenanigans kind of going on. So now that we have power axe mode, it makes our axe mode deal more damage, and that little yellow gauge at the top left, we will get more of it back when we hit the monster with our axe. And now that we have gone over that, let's find out some ways that we transition from our axe mode to our sword mode, because we can just hit the right trigger, and that's no fun. So what we want to do is we want to hold the direction. That's one way. And we can also do it the same way back, going from sword to axe, axe to sword. So you can hold the direction and hit right trigger, and that will initiate an attacking slash. We can then, after any swing, we can hit the right trigger. Now, to note, I believe that this is always, I want to make sure, but I believe that, yeah, there's no directional influence going to sword mode. But do note that leaving sword mode, we can hold backwards and right trigger to do another sort of fade slash. So we have a more quick, it's quick. This is a quick way to transition into our sword mode. Now we have a pretty slow way, but it does good damage. And that is after our wild swing, we hit right trigger, and we only need 1 swipe, but as you can see, there's this big swing around, and we go into sword mode. So you don't need 2 swipes. We need 2 swipes to get our power axe mode, and then we only need 1 swipe to do the morph sweep. And this is a pretty good option for a small to medium-sized opening. Let's say that there's just a chance presents itself where the monster is kind of open. This is good damage, and it gets us into our sword mode. So keep in mind of that. So that is that is our axe mode in a nutshell. There is this move, but we'll go over it a little more later when we talk about offsetting. But now that we've talked about our axe mode, let's talk about our sword mode. So our sword, as you can see, when we swing it, yellow bar go down, red bar go up. Look in the top left. Yellow bar going down. And then when we actually hit the monster, our dear Wagon Chan, the red bar goes up. So now you can see we have run out, in a way, of our gauge as we kind of swing. Now, when we are below, there's this little white line. When we are below this white line, be careful, because if you hit right trigger right now, you'll do this long reload animation that you cannot roll out of. So we want to kind of avoid getting our gauge too low, but it's fine even if we do. I'll showcase why. So we can hit right trigger to swap, and then we can hit Y after swapping back, and that gives us a big chunk of switch gauge back. So we kind of are doing this back and forth dance between having our switch gauge, spending our switch gauge, getting our amplified state, and then capitalizing on our amplified state, which we will now go over. And another good thing to note, the standard Y combo gives us a big chunk of switch gauge back as well. Let's go back to our sword mode, and I'll have to showcase this after we kind of talk about amplified state, but after we hit the monster enough, the bar will fill up, that red bar will fill up, our sword starts looking real cool, and then after every hit, these little mini explosions begin to happen. These are our files. We only have access to this when we are in the amplified state. Now, when we are in our sword mode, we have access to a standard YYY combo that kind of just loops indefinitely. Now, I believe the main purpose of these is that in focus mode, we can kind of like hold left and right, kind of realign ourselves. We'll swap back, do our YY, miss some of it, get our meter back. So now that we've run out of our amplified state, because as we mentioned earlier, once we get this state, we have it for a limited time. So we want to be using it as much as possible in a safe way. And when we want it back, we can swap. And our B combo, hitting B, and then B again, gives us a big chunk of our amplified state. But do note that you are locked into that double swipe animation. And once you dedicate to the third, or to the third hit, but the second button press, you cannot do anything. So do not let this B button tempt you. Do not let this B button tempt you. It will get you killed. Use it. Use that B attack for guaranteed windows of safety. If you are just wanting to initiate offense on the monster, because you don't like waiting around to attack, because honestly, who does? Use a Y attack. Don't use this B attack. Only use this B attack after a monster has missed. Take it from me. This was a painful process to learn. So now that we kind of understand good ways of restoring our switch gauge and how to spend our files and how to build our files, we can go over our elemental discharge. Let's get some gauge back here. Want to get good juicy amount. So our discharge can also build our amplified state, which is by hitting Y and B. You then tap it. Notice the gauge is going up, going up, going up, and it fills up. Now, this is actually not a terrible way of building your gauge, because as you see, if we do it right as we fill our amplified state, our switch gauge goes up. When usually, after we use this amplified state, or this elemental discharge, we lose a pretty substantial chunk of our switch gauge. But just know, and this is something that you'll have to really get used to, so do not feel bad if it's something that you can't keep track of, but just know that right when the amp gauge fills up and goes into an amplified state, you do get a little chunk of your switch gauge back. So that's our elemental discharge. That is kind of like the last way that we can build without, again, no special shenaniganry kind of going on. That's kind of the ways that we can build our amplified state. So let's go get our amplified state back. We can talk about what changes when we're in the amplified state more. So our elemental discharge, as you see when we were in our amplified state, if we just tap Y and B and then start tapping Y, we do this explosion. If we hold it, we latch on to the monster and start chainsawing its face and then explode. Very, very cool. Now, this is kind of it's kind of something that I like to, the way that I like to use it in, there is an opportunity where there's a pretty decent opening that we can latch our monster to, and we can kind of get just a last little bit of usage out of our amplified state before it goes away. And there's reasons for that, because we kind of want it to be the last thing we do in amplified state, because that big recovery. So it would be nice if we're not wasting our amplified state recovering from that big attack or even being stuck in it. Because we have another thing that we can do in our amplified state, and that is if we do right trigger Y and B, we go into this big full release slash. Now, we do not have to charge this. We do not have to charge it all the way up. We can let it go a little bit sooner. And as you can see, all of our big attacks, they don't just immediately exit out of our amplified state. We have to run out of our amplified state. So I can just tap this. I can go, uh-oh. See that I actually don't have time to fully charge it, and I can let it go sooner. This, now that I think about it, this we can do at any time. I think this also builds amplified state. Let's just go ahead and check real quick here. So we have an opportunity to build our switch gauge back up. So we go to sword mode, and we can do Unbridled Slash, which we cannot charge. We cannot charge it if we are not in amp state. And this isn't the best way to build our amp gauge, I will say, but it is an option, so we do want to be aware of it. So, now that we've got all of that, now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's make sure that we just kind of refresh. So there's building the switch gauge, power axe mode, building our amp gauge, and then there's the amplified state. There's our power files when we are in our amp state. There are the moves that we can do while we are in our amp state, and there are the differences between how they are when we're not in our amp state, are in our amp state. Boy, oh boy, that's a lot. Now we need to kind of talk about the big way. There's a big combo. So if we not hold, again, we hold Y and B when we want to stick to the monster, but if we just want to do the normal one, after this, we can then hold the right trigger, and this is kind of like a big dedicated opening. Now, I don't know if it's better to get 2 slashes off, 2 full release slashes off, or do that and everything, but I like doing that because it looks cool. So that's the one that I'll be doing. One more thing, thank you notes for saving me, because this one is kind of a big one, and this is kind of why I think to myself, and I'm kind of theorizing, like, what would I do? We can, after our full release slash, if we hit Y after this, we go into our Y combo, and it gives us back that big, chunky switch gauge. But then right after that, we could go right back into sword and then do it all over again if we still have our amp state. So we have options. We can either see, I think that for me and my theorizing, if I'm fresh, right? Let's say I'm fresh. I'm fresh on the court, and I just got the amplified state, and then we can kind of loop, show a better showcase of it here. So I'm not about to run out of my amp gauge. It's a fresh amp gauge. I could actually, if the opening is big enough, go for a second one. Right? So that's an option. But I feel like going for the discharge into the full release is perhaps something that you can do when you won't have the opportunity to get a second loop around. So that's something to consider. We can make our own thoughts and conjectures with the more information that we have. Now, please, do not obsess. Do not. It's literally in my notes in all capital letters. Do not obsess about your states. Do not obsess about the power axe mode. Do not obsess about the amp state. Safely swap between the weapon to and fro as you see fit, and get your states, your gauges, manage them calmly. Don't just think that you need to be, you're not in your amp mode. You need your amp mode. Oh, I don't have my power axe. I have to get it, because the ways that we generate this stuff quickly is kind of unsafe. Remember, this builds a lot of amp gauge, but you are stuck in a lot of animation lock. This might get you your power axe. Sorry, go back to it. This might get you your power axe. You, again, a long dedicated animation. So take your windows to maximize your windows to be maximizing your gauges. But do not force the issue, because you will just be taking hits left and right, and you'll feel like you are. I read a comment about someone who was struggling to learn this weapon and said it feels like they were trying to wade through water. And I feel like I felt that when I was learning the weapon. So let's get into our focus mode. We're going to need to turn dear Wagon Chan here. We need to wound her up. Sorry, Wagon Chan. And we're going to talk about focus mode just for a second here. So the roll. You're probably wondering, I thought you said focus mode. Why are you talking about the roll? Because we gain very limited access to our roll when we are in focus mode. The roll is like 80% of our defensive capabilities on this weapon. This roll is our bread and butter. It is our lifeblood. We must master this. Let's master rolling with this weapon. As you can see, we can only roll in focus mode when we are facing forward, meaning that if we suddenly need to roll to the left or the right, we'll have to manually turn ourselves to gain access to it, because as you can see, when we are in focus mode, our first touch of the A button is a little side hop. Now, you get a roll after it, but sometimes you don't have time. Those precious fractions of a second, they matter. Now, the hop does have immunity frames, and when you start to get nice with this weapon, you can just be like, actually, the side hop is enough. And you can hop through some pretty impressive attacks. But I feel like having access to your roll in any direction that you want, it's very important. So we need to get comfortable with turning off and on our focus mode for this weapon in particular. For those who are not aware of it, let's not pause the game. For those who are not aware, you can, under your controls, you can toggle on. I actually do love this setting. Love this setting a lot. You can actually toggle on and off your focus mode instead of having to hold it. Because after a 20-minute hunt of holding it, releasing it, or holding it and releasing it, in some weapons, you kind of want it held all the time because it's just that good. But for the switch action in particular, we need to get a little comfy swapping it on and off because, again, we want faster access to that roll. Now, when you get more experience with whatever monster you're fighting, you can stay in focus mode longer because you know that you need to, if you need good distance away from the monster, you need to kind of preemptively cook your roll with the hop. But that's a little intermediate and advanced, but it's something to keep into your mind. So I recommend using I'll actually showcase it. I didn't mention it earlier in the axe mode because I wanted to showcase the power of focus mode for this move in particular. So in axe mode, if we hold forward and Y, we do this forward lunge type thing. It's pretty linear. In fact, it's only linear unless we're in focus mode. So I'm going to showcase here. This is not focus mode. Hold Y, miss the monster. In focus mode, we hit forward and B, we turn our camera, and we can redirect ourselves. Now, this is a great source of damage and a great gap closer for us. It's also one of our, in my opinion, it's our best access to quick damage. The monster ran right past us, and then from here, we can decide, is there an opening to get our Y combo off, or is there an opening to close the distance, go for a sword swap, what have you. This move, I feel like, is pivotal to the Switch Axe's moveset. So now that we've kind of gone over when and why and how to use our focus mode, let's go over the wounds, because I like covering wounds first, but we need to understand how our weapon works entirely before we can talk about the wounds, because we have a lot going on with the wounds here. So when we pop a wound, if we pop it in axe mode, we will do this like kind of series of attacks, and then we get our power axe mode for free at the end of popping it. But here's the kicker. You can hit right trigger to swap to your sword, and the sword will then use your switch gauge and build amp state. So you need to be dialed in when you are popping a wound. Let's say in this situation right here, think about what you would do. Would you stay in axe mode if you started in axe mode, or would we swap to sword? I would swap to sword. I'm curious to know what you thought. But again, so we have a lot of switch gauge. We have our amp's axe state, so we want to swap over. Now, do note, you can spam the right trigger button and swap a lot of times. But I think you really just want to be paying attention to how you finish the wound pop. So again, got our amped axe state, no amped mode. We want to get more amped mode from this wound pop. So I'm going to swap to the sword, and I can swap at any time. See how I swapped literally at the last minute? So the wound popping for this weapon is much more hands-on and much more... You have to be kind of aware of what you want out of the wound pop because you have options. Not every weapon, trust me, not every weapon is that involved when it comes to the wound pop. Now, let us talk about the... We're going to talk about the last thing, and I will then just kind of reiterate. We're going to talk about our defensive offensive options. Again, this weapon doesn't really have true to form defensive options. We just have ways to keep pushing the advantage. Again, this weapon is very much best offense, or best defense, excuse me. Best defense, good offense. So we're going to set smash mode on so that our little training cart starts hitting us back. It's going to rear up, do a little slam. Now, our Y and B that we kind of talked about earlier, this is an offset, which is, you can think of it like a parry if you're not familiar. And if you're not familiar with parries or what that means, just an offset is you swing an attack into a monster's attack, and you kind of like negate the hit, and when certain conditions are met, you will initiate this kind of counter attack, which I'll showcase. You will need to practice this a lot, because there's this big wind up before you actually swing. So I'll try to showcase it here. Click, 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 start it now, swing up. Now, the reason why we didn't go over this earlier is because, again, we need to understand our weapon before we can understand what things we get out of this. So I'm sure, for those of you who are paying attention, you notice we got our amplified axe state, our power axe mode, out of that interaction. We can also, hopefully I don't mess it up. See, that's what happens when you're late. Again, this timing, very, very peculiar. Oh my God, we're gonna be here all day. Click, 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 start it now. Nope. This is embarrassing. Click, click, click. Okay, we can hit right trigger to immediately swap to our sword and start swinging with it. Now, if we had our amplified state there, yes, we could have gotten the counter, swapped to sword, gone straight into a full slash. There's a lot of options that you can proceed to follow up with after that. It's basically everything that you can do normally, just straight out of sword stance after that sword swap move. Now, I need a sip of water. We're talking a lot, yapping a lot. So that is one of the options for our kind of like offensive defensive options. And the last thing we're going to talk about before we get into the hunt is when we hit right trigger in Y, and we can be early with this, can be a little early with it. All that's important is we enter this state and we get hit. We can follow up that attack with our heavenly or heavenward flurry immediately. So it's a good landing one of these is a good way to get a nice juicy chunk of our amplified state. But do note that depending on when you use it, it does not always guarantee a window of opportunity, especially if you did it. A good example is if the monster started an attack series, and a lot of monsters have this. They have a series of attacks, 3 attacks that will happen in a row. If you parry the first one, you are stuck in that retaliation animation, and you will not be able to defend yourself against the second one. So using this, and do note, you take damage. You will take damage from doing this. This is not a true to form parry. We don't take nothing. See at the top left how we still took some damage? The damage you take will be proportional to how heavy the hit is, so do not use this on monsters' heavy hitting attacks. You will lose a lot of life. And I think outside of just going over ledges, so we can elemental discharge in the air after jumping off of a ledge. Always remember to roll into your ledges so you get this little kick up. You can also swap whatever weapon you are in when you jump off using right trigger. And that's really it. And then also just do note that when you're on your secret, you can hit Y and B together to do a dismounting attack. That covers the weapon breakdown. So if you learned anything or got anything out of this, or maybe you learned something that you didn't know, Maybe you're completely new and there's no monster hunter to play, and you're watching this video before the actual game comes out. I hope this gives you a good starting line to tackling this weapon kind of on your own and taking all this information and making your own conclusions about it. But if you got anything out of this video, drop a like, leave a comment, share anything Monster Hunter related, or share anything that you're excited about with this game. If you're looking forward to the Switch Axe, if you're not looking forward to the Switch Axe. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye. Now, if you're sticking around for the hunt commentary, then boy, oh boy, let's get into it. It's gonna be dirty. It's gonna be live. It's gonna be grimy. We're gonna mess things up. We might even die. I have died in some of these recordings, and I have kept them for the sake of it being a genuine hunt experience. I've digested a lot of Monster Hunter in the years that it's been out. I've watched a lot of videos, and believe me, I have watched a speedrunner video and been like, cool, that's how it's supposed to work, and then go into a hunt and then literally die 3 times and be like, well, what the heck? That's not what happened to this guy. So I'd like to showcase what a typical hunt should look like when you are kind of new to the weapon. Now, do note I have a lot of experience with this game, so your hunt might not look exactly like mine, but do note I do not have a lot of hunts with this new version of the Switch Axe and all of its tools. I have maybe practiced hunting this Alpha Doshaguma maybe 5, 6, 7 times. I didn't want to get too good at it, but I wanted to be able to at least showcase all the things that the item or the weapon can do. So do a quick start. Remember to eat. We need to eat. The food buff changes have been awesome. Once you eat, it lasts 50 minutes, and it is now persistent through death. You used to lose your food buff when you die. At least when I tested it, it persisted through death. Could only be me that has experienced this phenomena. So we plop down our barbecue, and we roll. We do it in every video. It wouldn't be a weapon guide video if I didn't roll the campfire, or the cooking grill, rather. Go to add ingredients and cook. Now, excuse me if during this hunt I kind of zone out. I am not, again, it's not complete flow state for me to use this weapon, so there might be times where my face goes a little zombified as I try to focus, but I will do my best to provide educational commentary during the hunt. So we can use the large dung pod here. It's a big poo explosion that will make all these guys run away, but we only need 2 of them to run away. Get a sneak attack here. Our sneak attack gives us our axe mode as well. Our amplified axe mode. Go into sword mode here. Parry. Assess if I need to keep continuing my assault or not. Take this moment to get some swipes in. He actually missed us while we were trying to parry. That's okay. Go into focus mode for our forward attack. Fade / back. Forward again. He missed. Now that's the attack that I actually wanted to try to parry. Those little cheeky bite attacks, they mess you up. They really mess you up. The damage will kind of stack up really quickly if he keeps landing those chomps on you. I'm gonna try to, after the slam attack, we are just gonna try to go for just a stick of the sword into the monster. As we were about to lose our amplified state. We're getting close to it. Yep, and there it goes. So we were right to kind of do that. Get a slash off. Go here. Play it safe. He's going for a cat, so we can wind up with this. Fade / back. I'm gonna juke to the side here. Go for a YY. We overcommitted, and that's what happens when we overcommit. Never go for your longer options until you see an opening. Wait, parry that. He turns the other way, so the move completely misses. I think I have a good opportunity here to land this. Parry. Gonna do the side hop and then roll. Do a quick hit. Telling you, those little swipes, they add up. Take some time here to get our follow-up attack, and it whips. Not bad for the beginning of the hunt, if I do say so myself. We can use our Ghillie Mantle. I'm gonna swipe this plant here to heal. We can use our Ghillie Mantle to initiate stealth. Or we can just get lucky and get another sneak attack off for a free Power Axe mode. Switch gauge is full. He missed. Again, gonna see those attacks coming. Hop, roll, swipe, 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 parry. It's going for a cat, so I think I can get full slash off here. And it wasn't on an orange spot, but we kind of don't want to obsess about that. Gonna hop, roll. See how we can kind of get used to the hop roll. Slash offset. Try to go for the offset here. Actually, wow, that was... I don't know who did that. I think our cat did that, maybe? I don't know if it even does that. So I'm gonna go for another latch on here, just because my amp state's about to go away, and I don't think I had enough time. I probably had enough time for the full slash, but we will definitely make use of that. Trying to got the offset. We're gonna go for the Power Axe finisher. Go for that finish. 1, 2. 1, 2. Dang it. Oh my god, get over here. Oh my god, that was such a good opening. We flubbed it. I'm gonna heal. Not be too upset about losing everything. Went for the cat. Take this opportunity. Oh, he's laying down. We have a great opportunity here. Get a power slash off. Hit our Y attack. Go for it again. He ran away. That's okay. I'll try being a little cheeky with it. Another Doshaguma, trying to be cheeky. Just go ahead and get out of here. Falling boulder. Always take those when we see an opportunity to. I'm gonna swipe, swipe, then do a full slash. Use our Y follow-up to get our gauge back. Actually take this opportunity to maybe get heavy mode back. Oh, we hit it too soon. It's after the second. Don't initiate it too soon. Do this, come in. Don't really care. Weird. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. I was hitting my Y button too soon. So I'm gonna go with the wound pop, swap to sword, because we want amp state. And we can do our unbridled slash after that, but he kind of got knocked away. I'm gonna swap to the sword again after building some gauge with the first 2 hits. I missed the opportunity to unbridled slash there, but we didn't have amp state, so it wasn't that bad. Try to get some peeky. Get one little pump of our sword sharpening. The new feature that's been added. Dodge that. Dodge that. Go for a B. Fade slash. I'm gonna roll away from that. 1, 2. Take this opportunity to maybe go for a morph attack. Little too long of an animation. Swipe. 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 Hop. Nice, we got the offset. Now, when the monsters rear up like that, you saw that like little blinking light. It's not a wound, but you can use your wound popper on it. I had no idea about that. I went for a quick full release because I wasn't sure if I would have been able. Okay, so now we're gonna do the big full everything. We could have looped, but I just wanted to showcase it. And then do Y to get the meter back. Then I can actually get some time here. Dang, I forgot to hold it. Go for the wound. Oh, he's gonna get angry here. He's gonna get mad here. So I'm about to lose my power amp state, and we actually have our Ghillie Mantle up, so I can take this opportunity to toss on my Ghillie Mantle. He's gonna hate life for a second here. Just let him calm down. It will show up, I promise. Get the sneak attack. Take this opportunity to get the wound. Again, we're gonna use our sword mode here. Oh, he swiped, so I'm gonna swipe. Swipe my weapon real quick. One. Again, these little testing hits that are quick. No luck on the offset. Oh, need to hit it. Nice. That was really close. I actually want to finish an axe. Okay, let's roll on up here. Swipe, 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 swipe. Cool. Let's get some cheeky little hits. I'd say the hunt's going pretty good. We're showcasing our options. I think the only thing that I would like to showcase is that I haven't yet is getting a wound pop and then doing the full slash release after that. So let's try dropping something on it. Let's try dropping. Ooh, he's actually stuck right there. Take this opportune moment. He ran into a paralyzing bug. Now, we need to find a wound. I want to showcase this. Gonna swap to the sword. Big explosion back. I'm gonna hold right trigger after that. Big damage. 1, 2. Oh, nope. We're dedicating the things before we should be. Wound pop. He gets a little mad after the wound pops. Got a mount, which you can get by landing jumping attacks. You kind of jump around the monster with the left analog stick. When your screen starts turning all like vignette, or dark around the edges, I should say, you just hop to a different part of the monster, keep stabbing. Once you've created a wound, you can use right bumper to initiate your finisher, which will knock the monster down. We also generated a small amount of amp state from that. So, as I don't have time for a big opening, let's go for the wound. Hope we can get our opening this way. And it whiffed because he wants to run away from us. He is having a bad time. He's basically almost dead. I don't know where he's going. I've never seen him go this way. I think he's just kind of figuring things out. Sometimes in life we can get lost. We can lose our way. And that can happen when, you know, you're getting jumped by a man with a morphing weapon. He's smacking you around. You're not really sure what direction is where. You've forgotten where your home is. These things happen. We have to be empathetic and sympathetic to the monsters. They really do get put through hell. We haven't trapped the monster, so probably make use of that after we build a gauge. We can use traps to kind of guarantee big openings. This Doshaguma is going all over the place. Just gonna poo-poo the little ones, because I don't want to keep chasing this thing. They're not gonna be happy about that. I think this thing is actually trying to figure out how the heck to make it home. So we're just gonna follow it. We're gonna follow it the whole way home. This is one of the... Okay. This thing still wants to follow me, so I'm gonna do it again. Hopefully it leaves us in peace. Let's actually... Yeah, so we're going to try to get our amp state. Roll after the monster here. Get our amp state, do our full release slash. Please land. It went after my cat in the middle of my attack, which we love. Roll. Axe. Okay. Let's go ahead and try for that trap. It would stop focusing my cat. Thank you. After that, do full release. Y. And then latch onto the monster before it can run away. We're going to ride it a little bit. And explode off its head. It hates that. It just wants to leave. I don't want it to, though. I really do hate having to chase these monsters. Please accept your fate. Come on. I think it will stop at this tree. These things really don't want to die. This is the pain and the woes of doing one takes. But this is what this is an organic hunt. These things will happen. You will experience this. I'm gonna throw on our ghillie mantle so we can get a sneak attack. I think I dodged a lightning bolt right there. Swipe, swipe. Do another swipe. Keep doing these little swipes. Don't let him trick you. Yep. I had to fight every instinct. Then we can follow that up with the Heavenly Slash. And then I'm not going to worry about getting to the front of the monster. And wow, what an explosive finish. The lightning bolts and everything. My goodness. Well, that's the hunt. And honestly, I've got some things to say. I wrote them down because I really want to get this point across. That I hope you enjoyed this demonstration. And I hope, again, with the things that you have learned, that you can kind of draw your own thoughts and conclusions about this weapon and see if it is for you, see if it's not for you. Decide what you think is the best and have fun exploring these weapons and all their new changes. Or if you're just new to the series, have fun, take your time, learn, keep exploring, master it. The skill mastery in this game is so satisfying. And if you just take the time, stay patient, focus on one thing at a time, but also don't feel like you have to either. These games don't come out every year. They're not a Call of Duty. They come out once every 5 to 8 years or something like that. So just enjoy Monster Hunter for what it is. And don't worry about what's the best, what's meta. And save that for later. Take the first couple of weeks to just have fun with the game. We could worry about being efficient. We can worry about having the best later down the road. And I think that's it for me. So if I missed anything, or you just want to tell me something or express something to me, go ahead and leave a comment. And if you liked the video, then like. If you didn't like the video, don't like. You can comment that you didn't like it and then not like. Just wanted to make sure. Nothing else? Notes? Nothing in the notes. All right. Well, as always, I hope you have a great day, or you're going to have a great day, or you've had a great day. And we'll catch you on the next one.